everyone. Welcome to On Deck with Mercury. I am Mercury Payton, the town manager, and I have here with me some distinguished gentlemen here to talk about our leaf collection pickup and our snow removal process. So fall is upon us, and winter isn't far behind, so that's the reason why we're covering those two topics this evening. So in light of that, we're going to focus on the town's departments that does the heaviest part of that work, and that is the Public Works Department. And so to my left here is Mike Gallagher. He's the Director of Public Works. Hey Mike, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good, how are you?
Good to see you. I'm doing great. And to my immediate right is James Kirby. Hi James.
Hi Mercury, how are you? It's good to be here with you distinguished gentlemen.
And then to my far right is David Donahue. He's the Deputy Director of Public Works.
Good evening. Good to be here, Mercury. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Thank you for making it this evening. So we haven't seen too many leaves fall yet, but I know we're already getting some calls for service with regard to leaf collection. Maybe from a public works standpoint, how do you prepare for the annual leaf collection pickup?
All right. Actually, we try to. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We try to prepare at the end of the previous season. We actually go over the equipment. Our fleet maintenance shop takes all of our equipment up and looks for major damage, and has to order parts and make the repairs. They do them as they can throughout the year, and based on the damage to the equipment, impellers, bearings, housings. Collecting leaves is a very abrasive thing to do. They'll eat up the impellers, they'll eat up the housing. Keeping them running throughout the season is difficult, and fleet maintenance has done quite the job to keep us going.
Well, that's great. I really appreciate all the work you do. I know that the residents do as well, and living here for about 10 years or so, I noticed that whenever I have to rake my leaves and get them out, I don't have to bag them. I just rake them out to the front, and then your crews come by and they kind of bring this big machine and they do their thing. So maybe talk a little bit about how that equipment works and what happens after you leave and pick them up. Mike, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Me to get this one, I think I could answer that.
Sure, yeah. Okay, all right. Well, James, we'll
if you
take
don't
that
mind.
one. Okay.
We have 3 tandem dump trucks. We have to install leaf boxes on, which collect the leaves from the vac machine. They're 21-yard cubic boxes. We have a 4-man crew, a driver with 3 ground personnel. We usually have a man out front trying to set the pile, as I like to call it, and ahead of the driver, and the 2 men on the back. As we pass by, we have 1 man operating the hose for the vac machine that puts the leaves into the back of the truck. We have a man raking, and depending on the type of weather that we have, we may end up having to use pitchforks. This time of year, we could get a winter storm in the middle of collecting the leaves. So we're prepared to keep moving. Once we get that equipment running and operating with the crew, we get it loaded. We take it to a mulch facility off of Beulah Road next to Glendon Park, and we go from there. Once we've made all our passes, which is a total of 3, we go ahead and begin grinding leaves and getting that stuff ready for residents. We can go into greater detail as we go further through. Yeah.
You mentioned something interesting about a winter storm happening in the middle of leaf collection. So if you get like ice or snow in the middle of leaf collection, how does that impact the collection?
That brings the leaf collection to a halt because we have to get on the snow removal operation. Normally in the early season or late season of leaf collection, early season of snow removal season, we don't have a major storm. We haven't had anything that would delay us more than a day.
I got it. Yeah, that sounds like it would be complicated. Plus, the same employees and workers who are doing the leaf collection are the same ones doing the snow removal.
Correct. we're a multifaceted group down there at the Mill Street property yard. We beg, borrow, and steal where we can with personnel and equipment. So
I'm sure.
we all work together. They work together well.
So what's the timeline for picking up the leaves, and how do you prioritize that routine, those routes?
Anybody else? Because I could go on forever.
I can give you a break if you want Kirby to catch up. But, well, we generally begin picking up leaves the end of October, early November, and we finish at the end of December. And so the timeline is really, the start is governed by when the trees decide to drop the leaves, and that really, we can't predict that until it starts happening. And, you know, as soon as they come down, we'll be out there starting to pick them up, as long as it's between, you know, our general time frame, the end of October and early November. And, you know, we just keep going until, you know, the end of the season. And like Kirby said, we deliver them to the Beulah Road leaf mulch site, and they sit there and decompose a little bit, and then in early January we grind them, the amount that we anticipate the residents will use, and then, you know, that's pretty much it, and we repeat it the next year. So.
Wow.
Mercury, if I can just add, you asked about prioritizing of routes too. So in leaf collection, we don't really prioritize routes. We start on one end of the town and go until the end. But when we start talking about snow removal, that's when we can talk about different prioritized routes.
Wow. So how many leaf crews can go out at one time? Is it 3 crews at one time, or 5, or is it 1 crew? Like how many crews at one time, and how much ground do they cover?
We actually run the 3 crews with the capability of running a 4th with a smaller version of the tandems. Like I said, the large tandems will do 21 cubic yards. We have 1 small backup truck and leaf vac machine that we use as a backup. So we have the capability of putting 4 crews out with the personnel. We also have a spare leaf vac unit in case we have one go down during the season. And basically it's kind of like like Dave was talking about, when, you know, the leaves come down, you know, so mid-November, end of November, when they get really heavy, that's when we really do, you know, we work a 12-hour shift if necessary, weekend if necessary, based on our collection pattern. We actually do post signs in each neighborhood. We start out each year with the opposite of where we started the year before. So if we started in the south side, southwest side, southeast side last year, we try to be fair to the residents, and we'll start on the north side, I believe, this year, and start our collection. But the best pace is to, if you want information, is to go on the town website. It's very informative. I went over that again today, looking at it, and it answers a lot of questions. And as far as our leaf pickup and schedules, like I say, it depends on the amount of leaves that come down. And we also do a daily update on the website of the leaves collected that day. At the end of the day, every day, our fine administrators up at Town Hall take care of that and post updates. So there's not really a guarantee when we're going to get to your house. And even though I lived in the town, I couldn't guarantee when my leaves would get picked up. But just saying, it's all weather-based and the amount of leaves that come down. So they do very well, though.
They do. So I'm out there and I'm raking some leaves. I've just started, and I've noticed that the leaf team, collection team, they're on my street, and they've passed my house. So, and I've got leaves still to get. So I feel like, oh, they've got to my house and passed me. What should I do? Should I panic, or should I think that they're going to come back or do another pass? What should I do?
Well, honestly, usually when we go by, we collect the leaves and we continue on with our route. There has been special occasions where we've gone back and assisted residents. We try not to do that because we would have to do that for everyone.
And it slowed the whole process down.
And it really slows the process down and gets us out of sync with the collection. There has been times that we have gone back and I think a time or two that you actually got out there and raked some leaves yourself.
Sometimes I get out there a little
And
bit.
if I can add to that, don't panic. We'll be back. There will be one final pass at the end of December where we go through the entire town and pick up anything we miss. So we'll definitely be there to get the last load.
Yeah, that's so true. I've been out there.
We don't leave any leaves there. We try to make 3 passes over the whole entire town. Sometimes it may run in, we say at the end of December, but it may actually, be in the beginning of January when we finish up. But we always pull all those routes at least 3 times.
So is there a way for Vienna residents to find out when they'll be at their neighborhood? So I guess, is it the QR code with the signs in front of on their street? And is that the best way to get that information?
That gives you kind of visual, and the QR code, yes, that does work. But the website, I believe, in my personal opinion, that going to the website and looking at the actual daily pickup, where we're at on the maps. We have color codes that tell you Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and there's also a color code for Saturday that rarely we use, but when push comes to shove, we come out there on Saturday and get those leaves. But yes, there's several signs posted on. We'll do all of the north side of town, posted and multiple signs at various locations going in subdivisions and neighborhoods. Let the residents know we're on the way. So there's no specific guarantee of a time based on the amount of leaves that are on the ground.
Yeah.
In the beginning, we'll probably run 1 truck, swipe the whole town, and when they start coming down heavy, then we put everything we got into it.
Right. Well, I appreciate all that you all do for leaf collection. I mean, it's exciting to know that we have the service that we provide to the residents of the town. So please tell all your teams, Streets Division, and all the other crews that work that overtime, that we really appreciate them working on that.
We couldn't do it without the support of you gentlemen here at this table. Mike, Dave works with me all the time. We pitch ideas back and forth, and we make it work. And it's one big team effort. It really, truly is.
Well, that's great. And so this is a good time to transition to the other part of this season, this fall/winter season, and that's with part of the harshest part of the year, which is snow and ice removal. So how do you prepare for snowstorms? What's your process? What's your starting point, and how do you prep the equipment?
Well, I always, being with street maintenance, our main forte is asphalt. So I'm always a weather guy. I'm always looking at the weather and seeing what it's going to do. Winter season's no different. I'll start in the middle of leaf season, and we'll be tracking winter storms. Actually, many of us, we go to different sites. We have more than one site. We get more information from Mr. Donahue.
Yeah, Dave Janicki. He's the one that we typically ask him about the weather.
Yeah, we prepare for our storms that way. We're watching them at a distance, anywhere from 3 to 5 days in advance, in order to prepare for the storm.
Good. And so how do you determine when to pre-treat roads, and what's the process of deploying the snowplows?
Well, again, we've added an aspect of anti-icing. We use a brine applicator, and we have a brine maker down at the property yard that we make our own salt brine. We have to track the weather before we can pre-treat those highways. I mean, I'm sure everybody saw those little white lines that streak up and down the neighborhoods and primary roadways. We try to pre-treat the entire town. We basically stick with the primaries first. If we're calling for rain, we don't waste the time or effort to do anything because the rain just washes the salt brine away. It takes approximately 3 full days to brine the primaries and the secondaries on all of the town, including parking lots that we maintain, the public buildings parking lots. So 3 to 5 days out, we're really looking to get started with the pre-treatment, and then we just track the storm and see. Each storm is its own event, so we really don't. We can say 4 or 5 inches, but we really don't know.
Right.
Right. When it hits the ground, that's when we react to it. We really don't stage because we're such a small group. We do have quadrants, as Mike was talking about earlier, that we have assigned trucks just like we do for the leaf trucks. We have assigned routes for the leaf trucks. Everything's assigned and monitored by shift supervisors.
I think you also asked about some of our prep for the snow season. It's very similar to the leaf season. As soon as we're done plowing snow for the year, we're trying to order new plows for the ones that are broken. Inevitably, plows are hitting raised manhole covers or other obstacles, and so we want to make sure we have that equipment all in and ready to run the next year. And then, make sure all the trucks are good running and all of that. And what people don't see is all the prep that goes on behind the scenes. Our operations superintendent, Jonathan Wooden, does a lot of planning, and we're in the midst of that right now because the snow operation uses quite a bit of town staff, not only the people at Northside, it uses parks people, admin people from the town hall, and we have to be prepared for any eventuality from pre-treating to the major snowstorms. So we have to work with a lot of restaurants in town, pre-planning meal tickets, because when the guys are working 12-hour shifts, they need a place to eat, and so we get that in order. And then also the really bad storms, we can't have people going home. We have to arrange for hotels so that they're to take care of the work. And so very complicated scheduling, and Kirby's in charge of one team, and Jonathan is in charge of the other, and they work on 12-hour shifts until we're done and then ready for the next storm, and it just keeps on going, and they do a great job. And when we have these ones that occasionally get to be 30 inches, they can be quite trying, but I think they enjoy the challenge.
Yeah. How many plows do we have in the town, and how much ground can they cover per hour?
We have 14, I believe it's 14, that my last count is 14 pieces of equipment that we plow with, small trucks to tandems. Dave mentioning those big snowmageddons, we actually have amongst all of the departments approximately 28 pieces of equipment that we use, and it is a department effort. Parks and Rec, Water and Sewer, General Maintenance, Fleet Maintenance, Streets. If I forgot General Maintenance, I'll say General Maintenance again, but we use everything that we have down there. Fleet Maintenance really is a major part in keeping us afloat because the equipment is going to break. You're using it, especially like leaf machines, the tandems, all those pieces of equipment have to be maintained. We do daily maintenance on them to try to make it through a season, but much like snow removal, when it breaks, Fleet fixes it, and if they don't fix it, we don't plow. Right. So I take my hats off to them because they, along with Dave and others that help us get this parts and this equipment in here so they can get us back on the road. They do a great job, so I appreciate everything that everyone does. Sure,
and I'm sure it's a very complicated process because not only are you balancing leaf collection, as we mentioned, with the snow removal in the same season, as I understand it, the same team is also working sanitation as well. And so talk a little bit about how challenging it is when we have to provide sanitation pickup and do snow removal and leaf collection.
Basically, we use sanitation to help us with a lot of the labor activities. We do steal their drivers too as needed. We here try not to shut down any sanitation pickup unless it's absolutely necessary, and therefore it'd have to be a pretty bad storm for us to close down picking up trash. That's usually our #1 priority, is to make sure that service does not get delayed in any way. When we're actually doing the snow routes and plowing, we have maps that let us know what day and what route they're on, so we can try to make it safe for them to collect the sanitation and the other goods. Everybody's a big part of the team.
Right.
From shoveling to driving. I mean, it's just so much. We couldn't do it by ourselves.
Yeah.
And Mercury, you mentioned, you had asked about maybe how much ground can you cover in an hour? Well, that's all dependent on many variables, including kind of snow, even the timing of the snow. Like if it happens overnight and there's no traffic, well then, we're kind of free and clear for the most part. But we've had some snows that come during rush hour, right?
Right.
And a snowplow can't go any faster than the traffic around it. So that's a major factor too, and that's something that I know frustrates a lot of people. It's like, well, why isn't my street getting plowed? It's like, well, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon and we're on Maple Avenue with 30,000 other cars.
Right, right. And now that you mentioned it, talk a little bit about the primary roads and the secondary roads. I know that you have a sequence, there's a method to the madness, so to speak, as far as which roads you give attention to and why you do that.
Sure. Yeah, so we have primary routes and we have secondary routes. The primary routes, I don't have there's a map online, but it's obviously Maple Avenue,
yeah.
Nutley Street, Park, Center Street, Beulah Road, and kind of like the bigger type roads. And the reason that those are targeted first is that obviously that's the most traffic, right? And also we want to make sure that emergency vehicles have a way to get around
Absolutely.
Easier, and also to kind of keep the commerce going during storms. And then the secondary routes are what's left, and those are the second priority. And so those, there's many times on a storm that might be last 12 hours or more that we're on our primaries, and those are considered passable and clear, and then we hit the secondaries. Well, then all of a sudden, a couple hours later, it's still snowing. We've got to send our resources back to those primaries, and then to go back to those. So even while we're plowing a secondary, a primary still gets priority if it needs it.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I don't live on a primary. I live on a secondary or probably a tertiary road, probably. But so what can I do as a resident? What can the 16,000 residents do to maybe help in the process? So for example, I have my car parked on the road. Should I move it to the driveway? Should I maybe park it on a road that's already been plowed? I mean, is there anything that I can do as a resident to help the process be more efficient?
Sure. Yeah, to the best you can. If you can take your car and put it in your driveway and off the road, that's going to be the best scenario and most efficient way for us to plow the streets.
All right. Anything that we're missing that residents should know about with regard to snow removal that's important to remember?
Yes, I mean, where we have sidewalk, homeowners and business owners are responsible for the sidewalk in front of their properties or businesses. If you're shoveling your driveway, we always say shovel the snow to the right, because that's how we plow. Everything goes to the right.
Shovel to the right, okay.
On the right side of your driveway apron.
I just learned something. That's good.
Granted, we're going to come through there depending on the depth of the snow, and we're going to put snow right back there, but that's the nature of the beast, so to speak. So those things, mainly, if you got a place to take your car off of the roads, secondary or cul-de-sacs, it makes it so much easier, and because it causes the guys to have to it puts them behind. Not so much that they're speeding or anything like that. It's just once you're plowing, if you have to stop, go in between vehicles where they've parked vehicles on either side of the street, and sometimes the truck just will not go through there because the plow is too wide, and we don't want anybody's car to be torn up. So
Sure.
for safety's sake, and time efficiency, it's best if you can move the car. It would be a big help.
Now you mentioned a little bit about shoveling snow. Is there any part of the sidewalks that the town does cover with regard to shoveling the sidewalk?
Well, like I was saying, in front of homeowners' property, they're responsible to shovel the snow off the sidewalks. On the primaries, businesses are required, but with the help of many departments, Parks and Rec, sanitation, streets, general maintenance, we do take care of sidewalks, especially when it's deeper snow. We try to maintain, so pedestrians aren't walking in the street, where that's very unsafe. So we do go out and open up handicap ramps, intersections, shovel and plow snow off the sidewalks. Parks and Rec handles majority of that, but we all work together as one. The streets and the safety of the streets, primaries, secondaries, and cul-de-sacs comes before the sidewalk work, so to speak, or the public buildings. But by the end of every event, we do get everything cleared, and we all work together. Fairfax County takes care of the schools within the town limits. The public buildings we take care of. Parks and Rec does the majority of that work. We assist in the deeper snows. There's not really, we put the people where we need to get things opened up and make it safe for the residents.
Well, that sounds great. I appreciate all that you do. This sounds very complex. And every year, generally speaking, goes well. I know we do a debrief after every storm to kind of help us to understand what we could do better. And so I'm glad you all do that. Before we kind of end our time here, I know the three of you have probably some really great stories about, snowstorms of the past. Any particular story that resonates with regard to a difficult snowstorm to get on top of, or an interesting story that's happened along the way?
Well, we did have one issue last season during a snow event, and I don't remember or recall which snow event it was, but we had a subcontractor doing some work at the Nutley property yard, and that's where our two-way radio base is, and the communications got cut along with the power. So our general maintenance team, before my shift got in, managed to come up and reinstall the communications and add generators, which had to be manned around the clock for fuel, and got us back online. Communication from top to bottom is, one of the most important things. If we can't talk to one another, then we're really behind the 8 ball, so to speak.
I'm sure. One more thought just crossed my mind, and that is, I know that residents may be paying attention to supply issues around our region and nation, and I know we're probably being impacted by that. Will that have any bearing or impact on our service delivery with regard to leaf collection or snow removal?
Right now, we don't anticipate any issue, but it's quite possible. Like before the season for snow removal, we'll stock up with sand and salt to make sure we have the full coffers for that. But lately, we've been seeing issues with, like, our paver has been down for at least a couple weeks because a pump, I believe it is on back order, and it takes quite a while for that. So it's potential we could all be caught up in some of these things. If one of our trucks has the hydraulic pump go out, then we could easily be down a plow for quite a period of time. But that's what we deal with, emergencies and breakdowns, and we'll keep on operating through it. And I'd say one thing, if I could fix Mercury with this, is to get a really good weather report. We've been looking for good weather reports for the last few years. We say it's going to snow tomorrow, and it's rain. Or it's going to rain tomorrow, and it's snow. It's just something about living in Northern Virginia.
Right.
It's not conducive to snow removal.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think I've lived here all my life, and that's been the story since I've lived here. Anything that you'd like to close us out with, Mike? Any particular thoughts?
Well, I just know that I'm one of the first people that gets word of like somebody not happy that the street's not plowed, and I know I have to remain calm on that, but also like to remind people that we will get to your street. We can't give you a guarantee of when, but we can guarantee you that we will, and to just please be patient, particularly in these heavy storms, and know that our crews are not, they're being very efficient, they're working hard, they're in 12-hour shifts, and that, we will get to your street, we promise.
It's a promise from the Public Works Director.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, all three of you, for taking time out to explain the leaf collection process and the snow removal process. Your teams are unsung heroes in our community. They're often behind the scenes doing difficult work with sanitation removal and snow removal and leaf collection, all going on at the same time during the season with limited resources. So I really appreciate the commitment of all of your teams and all of your leadership and all that you do. And also like to thank Chris and Sherry here, who have allowed us to use Maggio's restaurant here for our On Deck with Mercury. So I really appreciate them allowing us to be here this evening. So thank you for tuning in to On Deck with Mercury. We really had a great conversation here about snow removal and leaf collection. And we hope you tune in next time for the next On Deck with Mercury. Thank you very much.